Yeah, and of course, before you went to Youngstown, I think there's one particular night that I'm sure you've talked about over and over again, which is June 6, 1986 at Three River Stadium. So, for anybody who doesn't know the story, can you take us through what transpired that night with another Pittsburgh broadcasting legend?
Okay, well, I was going to say that I know he knows the date because he comes to me about every year, especially when he was still working uh, as a sports anchor. He wanted to do, I think, after like the 20-year anniversary or 25-year anniversary, he wanted to do a show about it because he ended up getting obviously a job, and so did a third gentleman. Oh my gosh, I'll find that out. I have to look this up. But I think he's still the voice for Virginia or Virginia Tech football, and uh, uh, Mr. Roth, I believe. And yeah, so it was 1986. I was working for the Pirate front office, and Lanny Terry and Jim Rooker were the broadcasters on the radio side for many years. Rook had a daughter who was, I believe, graduating from college, maybe getting married. He was going to have to leave and miss a game. And Lanny, who was, one of the brilliant broadcasters of all time, not he's, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer, and just so knowledgeable and so smart. He's got a marketing mind too. He went to the people at KDK and the Pirates and said, "Listen, rather than me doing the game by myself or bringing in somebody from the PR department, why don't we open this up and make it a contest? Let's open this up to any amateur who wants to be an announcer, and we'll pick three winners, and each winner will have a chance to be uh, kind of my co-announcer, do some play-by-play, do some color for 3 innings each." They called it a broadcaster for a night contest. And again, this was you mentioned 1986. I'm working in the front office I think I did a number of jobs at the Pirates. I think I was the radio TV coordinator for the Pirates at the time. So I was a liaison between our flagship station, KDK, and the 50 station radio network. And a gentleman, Colton, by the name of Harry O'Toole, he was the uh, executive producer of Pirates baseball on KDK radio. He had other jobs at KDK. He'd been there for a long, long time. He passed away a few years ago, local legend. He was in local plays. He was a local actor. He did some national film work. He worked in one movie with Bruce Willis, but he was very animated, uh, flamboyant, uh, hilarious. One of the funniest people. I mean, just an absolute treat. One of my really good friends over the years, but he was just absolutely, he was a caricature of himself and a true character in Pittsburgh. And at Three River Stadium one night, he would often come to games and sit behind home plate at Three River Stadium. And I saw him down there, so I was doing some work up in the uh, booth with the organist Vince Lashide. I was kind of the DJ between innings, helped coordinate the entertainment. And so as the game was going on, I ran downstairs and wanted to talk to Harry because I certainly heard of the contest. Saw him in the stands and halfway through the ball game, and I said, Harry, by the way, like I said, he was an actor all the time. He would flail his arms off in time, and he'd be emphasize words and say, "Greg, what do you want?" And I said, "Harry," he goes, "Can't you see I'm watching the game?" I said, "Yeah, I know you're watching the game, Harry, but I just wanted to let you know this broadcaster for a night thing. I want to enter the contest." "Oh, you're not allowed." I said, "What do you mean? Employees of the Pirates and KDK are not allowed." I said, "Yeah, but can I?" He goes, "If you do, you better not use your name." So I took that to heart, and I went ahead and I took one of those cassette tapes that I've been, occasionally doing during games and mailed it in to KDKA. How much time do you have for this a long story? You got time for this?
Oh, of course, Greg. We got all the time in the world, my friend.
So I mail it in to KDK and thought nothing of it. Now, Colton, at the time, I was my title. I think my title might have been assistant director of promotions, I believe, actually, because one of my cohorts who also was an assistant director of promotions. And what we would do, we would sell promotional days. We would activate the game day. We'd order in the whatever the giveaway might be, t-shirts. We'd get them in from whatever country and pay the supplier. And then we'd make sure when the truck came in, we'd meet the truck and we'd have the grounds crew help us put them in storage. And then we'd help hand them out. It was cumbersome, but enjoyable. But one of my dearest friends, her name is now it's Kathy Little, but she's a Pittsburgher, Kathy Saba. And she and I can laugh about this now, but at the time she didn't think it was very funny. But uh, so I didn't tell anybody about this, that I'd mailed this in because you had to use an alias. You couldn't use your name. He told me I can't use I better not use, so I didn't. I sent the tape in. And a few weeks later, got a phone call from Harry. And he said, Greg, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm sitting here. Actually, we're in a meeting. Kathy and I are talking about a giveaway day in a couple weeks. Get over here right away. So what? Get over here right away. We need your help. What? Okay. I said, Kathy, let's go. Now, back then, Colton KDK was located at Gateway Center, where KDK TV currently is located, which is right across the river from PNC Park and then Three River Stadium. So heck, you could get there in a car in 2 minutes flat. So we get there and walk into Harry's little office, and he didn't have a very big office, but he got papers everywhere and boxes of stuff. And what do you need? See that box over there? Yeah. Take that box and go into one of those recording studios and listen to those tapes. What are they? Broadcaster for night tapes. There must be 100 of them. I don't have time to listen to all of them. So take those tapes. So Kathy and I go into a cubicle, and these cassette tapes, we'd put a cassette tape in and we'd listen. And he said, whatever was no good, just pitch or put it in an empty box. If the good ones, though, anything that's good, save and give them to me. So we would put the tapes in. Now, understand, I did not hear my tape. Thank God.
I was about to say, I was wondering if your tape was in there.
Thank God. No. But I was very objective about it. I mean, what am I going to do? I listened to a tape. You could tell. You can tell. You even now, you know if guys are any good. And so you'd listen to a tape, and she and I would both agree or disagree. Any good? Yeah, decent. Let's keep it. Right away. Oh my gosh, some people just did this jokes. Like, what is this? No. So came back and gave them the tapes we thought were decent. Again, I've not said a word to Kathy, and go back to work. We were all there for about an hour or so. A few days later, phone call again. Once again, it's Harry. Greg, you and Kathy get over here right away. I said, what this time? Constantine Grab wants you over here. Now, Constantine Grab was the general manager, vice president of KDK Radio in Pittsburgh. And he had a big office, big name, big voice, booming voice, big human, big personality. Probably everything you could possibly envision with that great name, Constantine Grab. Yeah, he was deep voice and big man and very serious and always dressed to the nines. And understandably, he took his position as vice president and general manager of KDK and Westinghouse very seriously. Well, we find ourselves in his office, and there are about, 7 chairs lined up in the back of his office. He is at his office like this with a big desk, big, huge booming speakers, and a big stereo. And I'm seated there now with Kathy, my friend, Harry O'Toole. Kathy Muldowney was in charge of traffic, I believe. Kathy Proya, I believe, was also there. And Randy Flick, an engineer. I believe that was it. And I knew all these people, by the way, KDK. They're all friends of mine. All these people, great people. Sometimes run into them once in a while. And I think I know what's going on here, but I didn't say anything. And Constantine Grab says, thank you all for being here. Uh, the broadcaster for a night contest has been going on for a couple of weeks now. We've gotten hundreds of tapes from across the country. And Harry O'Toole, Constantine didn't know that I was involved or Catherine. Harry O'Toole has done such great work here, whittling down what he believes to be the 10 best. And I have them here now, the 10 best possibilities. But we need only 3. So what we're going to do, we're going to do this the democratic way. I'm going to insert this cassette tape, 10 of them, each one. We're going to give each one an ample opportunity to be heard. And I'm going to go around the room and we're going to vote on the final 3 winners. So he starts putting the tape in, click, he starts, here's the pitch, whatever it would be. I don't know who these voices, I'd never heard before, but he lets it go for a little while and he stops the tape and he said, well, I think that was pretty good. I would vote for this person. Kathy, Randy, Mary, Greg, and by the time they got to me, I think I was second to last. I think Kathy was closest to the door, I believe. I was second to last, but everybody else was voting. By the time they got to me, everybody else had said yes. So yeah, good. Went through this process, 3 or 4 tapes. And again, listening to a few, maybe not a whole inning, maybe a half an inning. And then he puts a tape in and he goes and starts the tape. And within 2 pitches, like the ball fouled away, a ground ball short onto first, he stops the tape and he goes, well, obviously this is a winner. Does anybody disagree? Harry, up. Well, that was my tape. I mean, right away, as soon as obviously I recognized, like, oh my, as soon as he hit the tape, I go. But again, within seconds, he stops the tape. He goes, is there any doubt he's a winner? And he goes, and so I kind of sheepishly, turned my head and voted yes, of course. I mean, everybody else agrees.
Did anyone know who you were, Greg, at that time?
Well, no, I was not an announcer then, I was in the front office.
It's just like when you had the voice.
Oh, no, nobody, no.
Nobody knew that was you.
No. It was instant. Now, maybe if they'd let the tape go on, they'd listen to it for a while, probably, I would think. So anyway, he said, well, we've got our 3. Thank you very much, Greg and Kathy. Thank you for coming over here from the Pirates. We appreciate your help. We'll announce these winners. We'll let the Post-Gazette know. And next Friday, these 3 will do the 3 innings with Lange. So as we're walking out of the building, Colton, Kathy and I are walking out of the building. And at those days, KDK, there are glass doors at the lobby area. We walk out the glass door, and then you had to take a right by the Gateway Plaza there, and then you take a right, and we would walk toward Fort Duquesne Boulevard, and then take a right, and there's a parking garage there. I don't even think we might have. Sometimes we would double park and put the flashers on off the sidewalk. We might have done, but the point is we're walking out of the building, and we're walking down the street now, Kathy and I. I said, Kathy, I have a confession to make. She goes, what? I said, that last announcer that Constantine grabbed and everybody said is an automatic winner? She goes, yeah. I said, you agree? He's like, well, she goes, oh my, he's unbelievable. I said, Kathy, that's me. She goes, what? I said, that's my tape. She stopped. Her jaw drops. She looks at me. We stopped. She goes, what? I said, she goes, are you out of your mind? Do you know how much trouble we're in? I can't believe. She like hits me. She, I said, what? She goes, we're in so much trouble now. Why didn't you tell me? Blah, 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 blah. I can't believe you did this to me. I said, Kathy, I told her, I said, Harry told me I could do it as long as I didn't use my name. Oh, she's furious. So she goes, well, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not involved in this. I said, well, I'm going to win. I mean, I'm in. I'm going to see if I can do it. So the next day in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I have a copy of it somewhere, and this is what you're leading to. It said the 3 winners for broadcaster for a night are Albie Oxenreiter of wherever he was from, Fox Chapel. I know this one, Roth, Sam Roth, maybe, of Green Tree. And so, Colton, do you know the movie Caddyshack?
It's one of my dad's favorite movies.
Have you ever seen it?
I have a confession
Probably
to make
not.
too, Greg. I have never seen it. It's
Okay,
funny.
that's all right.
I love
Well,
Chevy Chase and Bill Murray and all them, but that's just a movie I've never gone around to see yet.
okay. Well, you know that two of the stars are Chevy Chase and Bill Murray. And for those who haven't seen it, Chevy Chase is the really good golfer. He doesn't like the fact that this Bushwood Country Club is all uppity. Um, he goes out and practices one night in the dark, and his golf ball winds up crashing into the assistant groundskeeper's shack, where Bill Murray is this character. He is the assistant greenskeeper, and he's definitely got a couple screws loose. And there's some great quotes from him in the movie. I mean, he and Chevy Chase are the stars, but he's just this real goofy assistant greenskeeper, um, that's really wacky. But his name in the movie, his character in the movie, is Carl Spackler. Carl Spackler, Carl Spackler, Spackler. So again, the Post Gazette does a pirate story, and at the end, it does a paragraph of little Bucko notes, Bucko treasure nuggets. Says something like, Tony Pena is now 21st last 25, blah, 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 blah. And the final line is broadcaster for a night contest winners who will do the game with Lange for Terry this Friday are Albie Oxenrider of Fox Chapel.
Bill Roth.
What is it? Bill Roth. Thanks
I
for
guess
looking
I
that up,
put
man.
Greg. Yeah,
Thank
Bill
you.
Roth.
And I apologize to Bill because my gosh, Albie had a reunion with Bill, and Bill's a great guy. So yeah, Bill Roth. And the third winner, Carl Spackler. And I think I was living in, I don't know where I was, Mount Lebanon at the time, renting an apartment. And so I get on the phone to Harry O'Toole that morning. And he always answers the phone. This is Harry O'Toole. I said, good morning, Harry. How you doing? What do you want? And I said, are you reading the Post Gazette by chance? No, I'm working. I said, grab a copy. I said, yeah, I've got one here on my desk. Get the sports section out. All right. Go to page D3. Okay. You see Bucko treasure notes? Yeah. Read that last paragraph. Albie Oxenrider of Fox Chapel, Bill Ross of Green Tree, and Carl Spackler of Mount Lebanon are the winners of Broadcaster for a Night. So what? I know the winner. I said, Harry, you're talking to Carl Spackler. He said, you're in big trouble. I said, big trouble? What do you mean big trouble? You're not allowed to be in it. You're in big trouble. I said, Harry, you told me a month ago that I could do it as long as I didn't use my name. I used an alias. And that's what I did. He said, I didn't think you'd win. So now one thing leads to another. We get a phone call from the Pirates. I think we're on I don't know whether St. Louis, wherever they were, get on a conference call with Lange for Terry and Jim Rooker, Kathy and I. And they were absolutely outraged, upset with us. Kathy kept saying, I'd never anything to do with it. But Jim, Rooker, and Lanny were both saying, like, you really put us in a terrible position. You know the rules, the contest rules. We did this on good faith. I can't believe you would do this to. And I still felt like I didn't do anything wrong. In my mind, I didn't do anything wrong. I had to go to my boss, the vice president of marketing, Jack Schramm, told him about it. He kind of got a chuckle out of it because you cannot, you're not going to be one of those announcers. You can't win. It's obvious, implicit in the rules that you cannot be involved in these contests. We read them on every night, anytime there's a contest. So he said, and you're going to have to call Constantine Grab and apologize. So I got on the phone to Constantine Grab, and he was none too pleased. I said, hello, we called him Con Grab. Con, I know you've heard. Um, I just want to apologize. Well, Greg, you put us, I don't know how I feel about this. You put KDK and Westinghouse Broadcasting in a terrible predicament, in a situation that is just I've never heard anything like this. I can't believe it. And I said, well, I apologize. And obviously, I'm not going to do it. But that was my one big break. I was really disappointed that I didn't get my opportunity there because I thought, this would be my chance. And it was swept away by these stupid contest rules. But I got my name in the paper. At least Carl Spackler did.
Yeah. Oh my good. Do you know who wound up winning the contest, Greg, and for getting the chance to do the game with Lange?
Uh, well, it was Albie, Bill, and I don't know. Albie might know the guy that came. I think they had to put in the next day in the paper that Carl Spackler is unable to because of an illness in the family or something. I've had to tell him. Yeah, I don't recall who then they brought in as the third guy. I forget.
Oh, okay. My goodness, great. That's a phenomenal story. And then getting your chance, eventually, with what happened at Three River Stadium with Mike Lange, so how did that opportunity come about for you to watch Lange do the broadcast when he was with the Pirates, and then you getting that chance, seems out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's funny you said that broadcaster for a night thing. I think you said was 87 or 86.
It was 86. Yeah, because I thought that it was the night when you were at Three Rivers, when you were watching the game when you were watching Mike do the broadcast, and then Mike went in the break and just said Greg Brown's going to be joining us, and then he
Oh,
left.
maybe I'm
It was a
sorry.
doubleheader.
Oh gosh, I think I got it all mixed up now because
Well,
maybe
that's a
then.
phenomenal story, Greg.
You've never talked to Albie about that?
No, I've no. Geez, now we're gonna have to get Albie on the try to. We're gonna have to get Albie on the
Oh,
show.
Albie loves the story. Well, Albie, like, because Albie then parlayed that into he did some play-by-play for I think colleges and stuff, and so he ended up then being a longtime sports anchor on Channel 11 and then 4, I believe. But I thought of around that time, so maybe it was 80. Oh boy, I don't know. Maybe it was 83 then that happened. But 86, okay, it was 86 where I was doing pre and post game interviews on KBL, the cable uh, fledgling cable outlet for Pirates baseball. They did, I don't know, 40 or 50 games. It was way before, AT&T and T and Fox Sports Net. And uh, this was kind of almost a pay-per-view type deal. Just the early stages of cable for the Pirates. And Mike Lange and Steve Blass were the announcers. And I got that job. Kind of a similar thing happened to the broadcaster for a night. So I guess I could segue into it because I was, I definitely was the broadcast coordinator then. Um, I was working with the affiliate stations at that time, and I was working under a gentleman by the name of Joe Gallagher, who was the director of publicity, and people wore different hats, and so I helped Joe in publicity and so on, and PR along with being the radio TV coordinator. And the president of the team at the time was Mac Prine. Back then, the Pirates were really owned by a consortium of businesses in Pittsburgh. The Galbraith family sold the team in the mid 80s to this until they could get a true owner. Kevin McClatchy would come along later. But until that time, holding down the fort was this group. And the president was a guy by the name of Mac Prine. It was much like Constantine Grab. Mac Prine was intimidating. He was the president of Ryan Homes, and they brought him in. One of the businesses that owned the Pirates, again, about 10 U.S. Steel, Ryan Homes, Westinghouse, a bunch of teams owned the Pirates then to keep them in Pittsburgh, and they assigned Mac Prine as the president. And Mac was he had to be 6'6" and balding, thin, good shape. He was a college basketball referee also. He had wire rim glasses, and man, he was he was just tough. He was no nonsense with Mac. If you got called into his office, boy, you were in some kind of trouble. And so anyway, Mac asked me to put together a videotape, an inning of Pirate play-by-play of because I was also at the time doing entertainment up in the scoreboard room when we got our video scoreboard in, and we had VHS tapes, and I'd run highlights of it. Was again very primitive, but we had a VHS, three VHS machines, VCR machines, and put highlights together. But I would record all the Pirate games, and so I could edit highlights together. And Mac said, "I want you to put an inning of play-by-play together of a Pirate game, but I want you to make it so that there's some action. I want you to make it so there's maybe a little bit of a delay, maybe there's a pitching change, um, the best inning you can do, because I want to bring in some people to do some play-by-play. We're going to hire a new play-by-play and color analyst for these games. We're not going to have Lange and Rook, whoever was doing it at the time. Yeah. KDK TV was doing some over-the-air games, but this was brand new. This is cable. So we need to hire a couple of announcers." So I put this tape together, and then he had me kind of coordinate it. We would bring in some local talent, and I had a room off. Maybe I went into the scoreboard room. I can't forget exactly where, but I got a microphone, and I showed the inning, and they would have to. It was very tough because no crowd, it wasn't live, and they would have to do play-by-play based on this one inning video on a monitor. And so we would take these tapes now, and Mac Prine and Joe Gallagher were in charge of hiring the play-by-play and color analyst based on this tape and based on the recording, and I would bring it in. Well, lo and behold, sure as heck, I did my own tape. So we listened to everyone, including me, and then we sat around this big conference room, and we went over the resumes and our notes. And Mac and Joe and I would say, "Okay, who?" And I was a big Mike Lange fan, and I said, so he was my number one choice anyway. Mike and Steve Blass, I knew Steve. He was doing some color on the radio, and so they were my top choices. And as it came down to it, they both agreed that it was Mike Lange and Steve Blass. They would be the guys that would call these games. But Mac said, "Now wait a minute. What about Greg Brown? You know, maybe he could do some play-by-play. Shouldn't he have a role?" Because we listened to his tape. He said, "Greg, you can't vote, of course, but Joe, now I'm seated here right next to my boss, Joe Gallagher, and Mac Prine is across from the two of us. And he just asked Joe Gallagher what he thought of me as a play-by-play guy or an on-air talent. Joe, what do you think?" Joe goes, "No, I don't think so." You imagine my dream? This guy, my boss, says no.
Right
I
in
want to
front
reach
of you.
across, right in front of him. I want to reach across and grab him and choke him. And I couldn't believe it. Mac says, "I disagree. I think Greg has a role. We'll figure something out." And as it turns out, they make me do the pre and post game. So I traveled, I don't know how many cities during the course of a season with Steve Blass and Mike Lange. It was unbelievable. What a incredible gift. What a blessing. I don't know why that it's crazy. So during the season, I get to know Mike and Steve, of course, and I'm just doing pre and post game interviews. Basically, I'm like the early Hannah Mears, Robbie and Smikowski, but didn't do, maybe once or twice do something in game when there was time. Basically, just pre and post game interviews, and so I was really good at it because during the games, I would stand in the back of the booth. Mike and Steve were up front, and I would watch them and make sure that everything was hunky-dory for them. If I saw that their Coke was down to a quarter, I'd run down to the press room and bring up a brand new Coke with ice in it. If I saw that they might be struggling with a call from the press box, the official score, maybe the speaker was down too low, they couldn't hear it. I could see Mike wondering what he might turn around and go. I'd run down to the press box and check with the official score and what was, and write down, it was error first base and just slip Mike the note. I was seen and I was available, but I wasn't overbearing, which is so critical in, I think, anything, but especially when you're trying to get jobs like this. You've got to be, it's such a balance. You can't be too timid, but you can't be overbearing because that's a turnoff. So uh, one day Mike says to me, kid, he called me kid, kid, we got a doubleheader coming up in a couple weeks, and I'm not doing 18 innings, so you better be ready. And I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but I knew all the teams, I knew the stats. I mean, I was always ready, whatever that meant. And I'm standing in the back of the booth one day at what day did you say it was? Did you have a
June
date?
6, 1986 at Three River Stadium.
Okay, June 6, 1986, standing in the back of the booth. And I felt like it might have been about the fifth inning. And I think I hear Mike say, now, of course, their back is to me. They're projecting out toward the field, and I'm standing behind them. And so you don't necessarily hear everything they say. I don't have a headset on. I'm not hearing the telecast. But I thought Mike said, well, the Pirates lead the Mets 5-2, and when we come back, Greg Brown will take you through the sixth and seventh innings. I thought that's what I heard. And I see him stand up, and he takes his headset off, and he starts walking back toward the back of the booth toward the exit, and where I'm standing near the doorway. And he pats me on the back, and he says, go get him, kid. And he walks out. Now there's an empty chair. Steve Blass seated there with the headset on the counter. And he turns back to me and he goes, get over here. He's like, sit down. I go over, sit down, put my headset on. And now I'm watching the Pittsburgh Pirates. I believe the New York Mets. And Steve says, when we come back from, he goes, okay, now taking us through the next couple innings, Greg Brown. And for the next two innings, I'm doing Major League Baseball play-by-play. I've got actually a tape of Major League Baseball play-by-play out of nowhere. Like, where did this happen? How did this happen? Now, Mike didn't get permission from anyone. He did it on his own. He got his hand slapped. He was told not to do it again. In fact, the guy who was the program director for KBL at the time was a wannabe announcer himself. He was terrible. He was not an on-air guy. Good guy, but terrible. But he was very jealous and immediately went to the Pirates and had me taken off that. That was never going to happen again. But I got those two innings, and I could parlay that into other things.